Hello, everybody, and welcome to this free episode of TF.
It's the free one.
We are sans cans today.
Sans cans.
Not a headphone in sight.
But there are two cans. There are two of us drinking from cans.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. We're all on the Stella.
We're on the cans of Pepsi Max.
I'm not, because I'm a professional. I would never dream.
You gotta
of,
stay straight edge.
I gotta stay straight edge to get through these notes.
No caffeine, no aspartame.
Diet Coke guy.
Yeah,
Through
that's
and
right.
through.
Yeah.
We are sans Alice today.
We are.
She is at the end of her holiday. Milo, you've just been on holiday. But also, I would like to welcome the newest member of the podcast, an old Argentinian man who just moved here and says he fought in the Second World War.
Oh, yeah.
I think we should honor him immediately without asking any more questions.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
100%. This will never go.
And he's a doctor.
Yeah, he's a doctor. This guy's Joseph Mangel.
Yeah, that's right.
Welcome,
the inventor of the clothing mangle.
Yes, that's right. We're going to stand up. In fact, we're going to stand up and we're going to applaud. We're going to applaud him.
And I'm shaking my head for no reason.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, though, right? Is the Canadian Parliament obviously did not shake its head
to show that it disapproved.
To show that they disagreed with
that would have been rude, eh?
with the actions of...
Guy stands up, you gotta clap him. That's the rules.
Yeah, that's Canada.
Yeah.
Of course, they would not have shaken their head to show they disagree with Jaroslav Hunka, who was recently feted in Canadian Parliament.
Jaroslav Hunka, the inventor of the shisha pipe.
Who was feted in Canadian Parliament.
Would he smell bad?
He's very old. He was a World War II veteran.
Probably.
For his fighting against the Russians on the side of the Ukrainians in 1943.
Okay, that seems reasonable. No need to look into that.
I saw a very funny tweet about this where someone was like, it's just amusing how instinctually Canadian members of Parliament stood up and applauded someone on the basis that they fought against the Russians during World War II, suggesting their understanding of World War II might be a little bit shaky.
Yeah, when the Germans and the Russians teamed up to fight against I swear to God, that is most, especially Canadian politicians. I mean, R.I.P. Bottleman, but where we sort of said, hey, a lot of demobilized SS guys, especially from the 14th Galician Division, are just moved to Canada in the 1950s, mainly by the owners of like the Sudbury nickel mine.
Oh, right. Yeah, great.
Yeah, Milo, you used to
produce... they have the giant nickel.
Yeah. You know all about Sudbury with the giant nickel.
I do.
And, it's just like, this was going to happen. This was absolutely going to happen. One of like the 5 guys, right, who is still alive.
In the burger chain.
Yeah, that's what they named the burger chain.
Yeah, the Nazi burger chain. Oh, legally, we cannot say the 5 guys is a Nazi burger chain.
Yeah, well, these
guys,
Canadian. These guys, this SS division, a lot of them were moved to Canada by like mining interests in the 1950s to break strikes.
But they were in like the good SS, right? Like the cool. Like,
the cool S.
Yeah. The two cool S's. The super serious about a free Ukraine. That's what it stood for.
Yeah.
They certainly didn't commit any atrocities of any kind, I presume.
Oh, no. Heavens, no.
That would be the regular SS.
Yeah, this is... there was no Operation Maple Clip that would have brought...
Operation Maple Clip.
Thank you.
I
think that's from Bottleman. This is just all Bottleman. I mean, if you want to talk about my podcast with Dan Beckner, I really do miss doing it.
I like that the Canadian Operation because Operation Paperclip, morals aside, it served a purpose. They were like, we need a lot of expertise. We don't want this expertise to fall into the hands of someone else. So these guys may have been Nazis, but we're going to bring them over because of these projects that they are uniquely qualified to assist us with. But whereas the Canadian one was just like, we need some really right-wing guys. We just need some guys who are like more right-wing than anyone we have. Like, they don't have any particular skills or like, heavens no, they don't know how to do anything other than just hate the Jews. That is their primary thing.
It's like Werner von Braun was not brought over in 1950 as probably like a demobilized SS unit to break a strike at a nickel mine.
He was brought over in spite of his politics, whereas the members of the SS Galician Division were brought over directly because of their politics.
But that's because of their politics, they're back.
Yeah, amazing.
and this is obviously not to say, that, well, therefore that like indicts Ukraine as like a country full of Nazis. Like, no, but the fact that it's just comes back to, I think, Western generally, and especially Canadian in particular, I'd say credulity that there is just a black and white, good guys, bad guys situation here that runs through all of history.
You've really got to differentiate between the bad SS and the cool symbol SS.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, the cool S and the bad S. We need to like figure out a better way of differentiating those two.
Due to the geopolitical circumstances of Ukrainian nationalism as a concept, it does have a difficult history with Nazism. But yeah, it's not all Nazi, but some of it is.
Yes.
And you've got to closely look at it to make sure you're not accidentally endorsing the Nazi bit.
I mean, it's just to me, it is hard to imagine, right, that knowing what I know about Chrystia Freeland, who was going to like Ukrainian nationalist summer camps when she was in like a teenager and stuff, like whose grandfather edited Krakowski Wieści in Poland, the Nazi newspaper, right? It's hard for me to believe that she would not have known that Yaroslav Hunka was a demobilized SS member.
Yeah, her father actually recently distanced himself from Lawrence Fox. I published one article.
So just to note, the in addition to the Canadian real estate bubble now getting so bad that property is 40% of the Canadian GDP.
Right.
To say, that we said in Bottleman, Dan and I, it will not be long before a demobilized SS fighter is brought up in front of Canadian Parliament and applauded by Liberals who don't know or don't care.
Amazing that the defunct Bottleman lathe still hums with power. There you go.
There's a little bit left over in it.
Yeah.
The last bottle man.
Yeah, that's right.
Don't know what that means.
He can now safely pop his top.
Yeah. I was the Canadian member of Parliament who did shake his head to show that he disagreed with it.
Yeah, that's right.
But the camera wasn't placed on me, so...
Just because you hate veterans.
Yeah,
that's true, yeah.
Anti-veterans of all kinds.
I'm anti-old people, I'm anti-veterans.
Did the guy spill a yogurt on himself afterwards?
That would have been fun if he
That would
did.
have been very
would have been a fun little reference. But that was just a little, a little amuse-bouche. We got some more news, we got startup, we got article. The classic setup.
Your 3-course meal.
Yeah, a delicious 3-course meal. And that was the amuse-bouche. That was the little shot glass full of like tomato jelly with like a basil air.
What?
And you, the listener, may be asking, what is the charge?
So, I want to now bring it back to a friend of ours.
Ooh.
A very good
Wait, the guy from Argentina?
No. So the guy from Argentina, his mic's broken. He won't be saying much, but I'll expect him on subsequent episodes. As of course, Jan Marsalek.
Oh, dialing in from the barrel.
He's back. Now, I don't want to be in contempt of court, and some of this I translated from a German article, so what I'm going to say is also corroborated in British press.
Okay.
Just know there is more to this that I can't say.
There's more to this. You got to think outside the barrel if you want to find out what else is going on.
So remember how Jan Marsalek had his friend who was like, "Hey, do you want a cool spy phone?" The Bulgarian guy, Mr. Rusev. Well, apparently Mr. Rusev has gotten bigger.
He's been working out.
He and 4 pals have been arrested.
Wait, so there's 5 guys.
The 5 guys. These are the 5 guys. Yeah,
I mean the Bulgarian burger chain.
Yeah, they've now been arrested. Well, operating in the UK as like a ring targeting, targeting people on behalf of the Russian government.
Okay.
3 men, 2 women, and they so Rusev, the main guy, alleged to be the main guy, was alleged to have organized and managed this group of 5 in like Southampton spying operations from the UK. Another friend of his, Mr. Stoyanov, was mostly an amateur mixed martial arts fighter who fights in the UK.
Amazing.
And
the red string here. How many degrees of separation are we from Andrew Tate right now?
Oh, probably
Mr. Stoyanov from his gym in Luton.
Another.
The best place for fighting in the UK, so I'm told.
Vanya Gabarova runs...
Okay. I hardly know her, yeah.
Runs a beauty salon in West London called Pretty Woman.
Okay.
And so yeah, basically from the set of People Just Do Nothing.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. They all they are all alleged. By the way, it's in the reporting in the BBC. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, she received a £10,000 COVID loan for the British government.
Perfect.
Which is fun.
Who didn't? In this extended universe,
right.
who did
Everyone
not?
did. I don't even think that's bad. Like, I think everyone should get those. I just think it's really funny. And it's like, she was like, well, yeah, I've got for my nail business. And that
we've got to give it like the Bulgarian spies. It's hard times for them right now.
And what they did was the police have found forged documents, press cards, and clothes with inscriptions of the Discovery Channel. So they were alleged to be going around dressed up as the Discovery Channel,
impersonating the
just
Discovery
people
Channel
from the Discovery Channel,
right.
making documentaries, but like of presumably critical national infrastructure. I don't know what.
Yeah, we're doing a national.
National
Geographic thing. Wait, wasn't it the Discovery Channel?
Discovery Channel, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. We're doing
also, they had National Geographic as well. They had press cards.
We're doing a Discovery Channel piece about the inside of MI6, and then the guys on the gate are like, well, we have to let you in. It's educational.
I suppose there are some...
Ancient aliens too, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah. So and the 5 defendants are being accused of being part of a conspiracy with a person known as Jan Marsalek.
That's so funny.
Who I must now add is not being charged.
Right, okay. A person known as Jan Marsalek is such a tip of the iceberg sentence.
Yeah.
What else has he been known as?
Was the next case going to be like he's going to kind of refer to himself as like FKA, like Jan Marsalek?
Yeah, he's been seen out with Matty Healy from the 1975.
Yeah. So this from as long as we've been talking about Jan Marsalek, we've been wondering like, what is this guy? What makes him tick? You know, it's been very clear from the outset that this is a guy who was really, really fond of being a spy, but in a way that made him terrible at being a spy.
Oh yeah, classic.
Which I can only then conclude is that again, he is not being charged in the case, but if these 5 were working for a person known as Jan Marsalek, he seems to be taking on a kind of 4 Lions energy of just recruiting a lady who owns a beauty salon in West London and a mixed martial arts fighter.
Well, he's too stupid to be a spy. That seems to be the underlying current of most things we learn about Jan Marsalek. Is like they're not even charging him because they're like, this man is so incompetent that he's actually not managed to do anything illegal.
It's obviously we won't know what he actually did, but again, like, the people he defrauded were mostly German investors, and you know he got the protection of the German government. But that says much more about the credulity of the German government that it was so transparently fucked up.
Yeah.
That now that the 5 Bulgarian lions here again were penetrated while like giving him a fucking like. A fancy phone that doesn't even do anything cool.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Which is like really secure.
But like something I think honestly has gone quite wrong in Germany ever since energy stopped being cheap. Like there's
something rotten in Germany.
Well, there's this the first time.
Yeah.
But there's I know this isn't I didn't put this in the notes, but there's just been something that's been like on my mind recently for the last few days, which is I read in the FT that the German Bundesbank has hired Boston Consulting Group to try and turn it into a more like lean and commercially focused organization.
Oh boy. It's hard enough to take something called the Bundesbank seriously, but especially when it's brought in management consultants. The government shouldn't be bringing in management consultants. I know the British government does this a lot, which is yet another reason why I don't take the British government seriously. So
what they said basically is that the consultants who are working at the Bundesbank have zero knowledge of central banking, and so all of the staff have to explain everything to them.
Great.
But
then once they've taken on that information, they'll use their magical private sector wizardry to revolutionize the Bundesbank.
Yeah, of course. Well, they said BCG, said one insider, quoted in the FT, does not have a clue how a central bank works and what its legal duties are. They've compared the work on monetary policy to a car-making production line, which is complete nonsense.
Amazing. Okay, perfect.
Well, that's because
they're going to do just-in-time interest rate adjustments?
Yeah, well, everyone gets a custom interest rate.
Yeah. We're introducing Japanese management terminology into the Bundesbank. You're going to be doing Kaizen Blitz. No, not the kind of Blitz you're used to. New kind.
No, when you last were allied with the Japanese, not that kind either.
No Krieg.
Yeah. This is but that what they're doing is a modernization process. This is the Bundesbank speaking. A modernization process aimed at transforming the bank into a future-proof, agile, and digital organization that needs to respond swiftly to complex and evolving challenges. But
Surely it's already digital.
It's Germany.
Yeah, but they're...
No, everything's on paper in Germany still.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's like, they make all the precision machines that machine the parts to make the other precision machines, but all their order forms are in paper because for whatever reason, Germans just don't trust the computer.
But the paper is great.
Oh yeah, good.
Very
paper.
well engineered.
It's great engineered paper.
You must understand that when you have all of your records written on paper, you can always set light to them if you really need to.
You can't write the cool S on a computer. You have to do it on good paper. Just don't do two of them.
Right. One more bit of news before we move on, which is, of course, this is something I have specifically for you, Milo.
Ooh.
Which is last week while we were all on holiday. You didn't realize it, you out there in podcast land, because we pre-recorded some episodes. But yes, everyone was away. We weren't doing it for a week. Was the March of XL Bully owners, and crucially, not XL Bullies.
No, they didn't want to take that risk, did they?
Why not bring your dog on the protest about how safe your dog is?
Yeah, I was obsessed with this. I may not have been physically here, but I was mentally here. It's so good to be, first of all, because to have, basically, that everyone who owns an XL Bully, the thought process they went through when deciding to buy that dog is, what is the most, obviously dangerous looking dog I can legally buy? And then now it's very funny having to watch all of those people backform a reason they got that dog that isn't that. I don't really feel particularly at risk from the XL Bullies. I'm not a toddler who lives outside of Betfred. I don't find that it's not, I don't have strong opinions on the XL Bully, but it was very funny to watch the march where it was like, look, there's no bad XL Bullies. Some have eaten toddlers, but it's just because they have bad owners. And then
none of which are here, by the way.
Yeah, and then to prove that, they assembled a group of people who, it wouldn't be right to judge people by their appearance, but if we were to do that, they're the sort of people who, if their dog was attacking you and they turned up, you would not be relieved.
One of my favorite lines from that protest is the video, but it was just but there's pedophiles on the streets, but they're going after our dogs. It's like, what
That's
is
right? There are.
And it's true. I was
there
just
are pedophiles in the streets.
Pedophiles.
Yeah, they're going after the dog. Well, I suppose if they could identify pedophiles by just being, it's humans, mate. We gotta lock away all the humans.
The analogy would be if you were allowed to own a pedophile and walk it around the park on a lead.
And they would probably like that.
There's no bad pedophiles, only bad owners. And then if there was a pedophile ban, you would just simply have to have your pedophile neutered and muzzled, which I guess probably would neutralize the threat from a pedophile. So
perfect.
Yeah.
We're coming up with policy here.
We're solving more than one problem here at a stroke.
Yeah. We're making a fairer world. We're solving that one lady's XL Bully criticism
by
saying, okay, fine, we'll deal with the pedophiles the same way we deal with the bulldogs.
Also, they ran into a rejoin the EU march and yelled at them and called them all traitors.
You know what? Fine.
Yeah,
I wish they brought the bullies. To be honest,
that really would have been Alien versus Predator, FPP versus the XL Bullies.
The acronyms, too many acronyms for me. But I like that was the warning: don't bring your dog to the XL Bully protest march.
It will kill people.
No, because it was the police will antagonize you and seize your dog. It's the first time any of these people have ever had to follow safe protesting advice, because the equivalent, right? Let's say that the demographically equivalent thing, or the assumption being, of course, would have been the Save Our Statues march.
Yeah.
But it's there was just a bunch of guys who were of course I'm going to bring cocaine to the protest. I want to have fun.
Yeah, of course. I'm gonna bring the flare to put in my ass.
Different thing, but still.
Yeah, but vibe-wise.
Yeah. And it was oh no, the police are going to seize the dogs. Got to be careful out there. We're going to de-arrest Terror, the big dog.
Oh god, that was also very funny. I saw that someone had looked up the names of the dogs because they're all like purebred dogs. They all have like official like registered names and stuff, and like the names of lots of them were like unstoppable genocide and just like like yeah, it's really, he's a lovely dog. Yeah, he's called Child Killer 4000. That's just his legal name. We call him Killer for short.
Yeah, we can call him Child for short because he's my child.
Yeah, that's right. XL Bully, it stands for extra loving.
Yeah. and bully is more like, wow, Teddy Roosevelt would have said it, like extra loving. Bully for that.
So did the XL Bully march did it win any consent? Did the people of the UK turn around and say, you know what, they're right, the XL Bully is much misunderstood?
That's the XL Bully march and the Rejoin march achieve much the same thing, which is that the people on them...
Getting on Trashfuture.
The people on them are sort of annoyed at... They are annoyed at the politics of the country. They do not really understand much of how it works, and they're just going to go and yell about it for a little while to get their energy out.
Yeah. Yeah, the XL Bully thing, it reminded me a lot of like the gun guys in America. Where they're just like, when you just like, you have a gun because you think they're cool, right? And then when people are like, I'm not sure you should be able to have that gun, then you have to come up with a reason that seems sensible why you have the gun. So then you know,
and then you're sort of then the retorts are sort of like these kind of insane scenarios that you then have to debate again. Because like again in that video, when I think it was done by Joe, and like the reporters sort of asked like, okay, like in what situation would like, you know, what if it was something along the lines of like, okay, how do you sort of respond to the idea that this dog is dangerous? And one of them goes like, oh no, you couldn't, like, you know, he's really loving, really caring, like, you know, he wouldn't hurt anyone unless like someone was kind of being aggressive towards it. And then they ask like, well, okay, what happens if like the dog thinks the person is being aggressive? It's like, oh, I wouldn't want to know. Right? But I think I mean what I was going to add
carnage, mate, to be honest.
So because like I don't want to discount, or I think like there is a more complicated, there's like a broader phenomena sort of happening, and the XL Bully thing I think is like, you know, there is like a lot of amusing parts in that for sure, but there were some of the owners who kind of said that, well, you know, in my neighborhood, like the police don't do anything, like they don't really protect me, and so I see this dog as like my form of protection. And like, so with, you know, regardless of that logic, like there's something within that which does sort of speak to this broader idea of like, okay, you have a broad sense of disenchantment and this broad sense of also, you know, the government and the institutions that are there sort of supposedly to protect you are not going to do anything. And pretty much everyone has sort of accepted that that's just not going to be the case. And so I do have some sympathy with the idea that like, okay, people would buy these dogs. And not just like, I think not even just XL Bullies, but like other types of like aggressive but legal dogs, like do so because for them it's like, well, this is the only form of security that I really have. And, you know, there's also the sense of isolation and the idea that like, you know, any dog is there to, you know, a dog can be there for companionship. And a lot of these types of dogs, like you can buy like, you know, on the black market for lack of a, you know, they're like very much easier to access in some ways. So I think there are like broader social phenomena that's going on. That does explain in part like why there is the defensiveness towards these kinds of dogs, which can't be like, we shouldn't be like immediately discounted.
No, of course, but it's the march is amusing.
There are definitely some amusing parts there. I'm sad that Alice isn't here because there were lots of situations where, or there were lots of instances of like owners wearing their dog's collar.
Oh, that is kinky.
I couldn't bring my dog because he was busy, so I'm here as my dog. All right. We could do one of two startups today.
Okay.
One is called. We're gonna do the other one in the bonus. So you listener are gonna hear both of them. You are gonna run through both of them. The question is, which do you want to do today? Do you want to do erudite, so erudite without an e, or base?
I'm very intrigued by erudite.
Yeah, let's do that.
You want to do erudite? Okay, you've chosen the evil one, not the stupid one.
Okay.
Erudite, shaping the blank experience.
Okay, that's not helpful at all.
Education.
Now in your hands. It's in your hands.
It's reading?
Like Joan Ryan. No. An empowered blank fuels business success.
An empowered blank fuels business success. XL Bully.
Yeah, like an empowered XL Bully who's able to like make management decisions.
Yeah, like I've been giving my XL Bully roids, and now he is...
Finally, someone did it.
Yeah, he's really helping with the business negotiations that I'm in because I just led him into the
Well,
boardroom.
one great business idea would be to bring an Excel bully into the office and just to release it at random times because the adrenaline that your employees would get and the fear that they would have might cause them to work faster and more efficiently.
Know your workforce and hit your business goals.
It must be like is it like a sort of brain related thing, cognitive tech of some sort?
Well, it's an AI, it is an AI software as a service platform that helps leaders improve culture and productivity.
So is it like a spying software?
Yeah, you basically got it.
It almost always is.
Yeah. They say culture is not just about employee resource groups and pizza parties, which became clear as chief people officers gained a seat at the executive table. Erudit is giving leaders the tech to maintain the best workforce at top performance. But how do you think it works? And also, because it's now obviously the year that it is, and stuff is off the blockchain, it's now an AI program.
Right. Yes.
I mean, you could never really put that on the block. I mean, I'm sure someone probably tried to tokenize HR, but it was it always loaned because like blockchain was all about fragmenting things and allowing things to communicate in a fragmented but organized way. That was the idea, anyway. Right? The AI is always about bringing more and more into one umbrella. It's about large institutional control. That's also basically the idea.
So does it like it has like camera footage of you at your desk and an AI looks at you and decides if you're working or not?
Not quite. That's more of like a shift work or industrial production thing, because we have talked about companies that are like that before.
Yeah.
That's a little bit like Cloud Chef is kind of like that. You know, it's just it's you go and you work in front of the cameras and everything you do is monitored and checked. And you don't even know why you're doing it. You just know, twist your hand like this. It becomes like a religious ceremony. In this case, no. Erudit connects with companies' internal data through Google Workspace, Slack, Teams, Zoom, etc. to give executives real-time work environment reports that are segmented by team. So you can know the attitude of your sales team, and you can, what else do you have to do if you're a CEO? You can see the attitude bar of your sales team go up and down in real time based on how they're messaging one another.
Right, okay.
So it is originally also a Spanish company, which feels wrong.
Erudito.
Yeah, but it feels wrong because Spain is like leads the world in like
goofing off.
Yeah,
having a little sleep in the middle of the day.
Which is good. That's a fine thing to do.
Maybe that's why. Maybe it's like produced, you know, like it's like that thing of like, you know, like the guy who went to Eton who becomes like a Trotskyite or whatever, you know, because it's just to piss off dad. But it's that like the Spanish version of that where it's like he's so annoyed by everyone having a little sleep in the afternoon. He's like, no, I will build a computer to stop this.
We will stop everybody napping. So, our psychology-backed AI.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
So, unlike all those other AIs that are only backed by sociology, economics, English literature.
And just
my
psychology.
AI's got a business studies degree.
And just psychology, nothing else.
Yeah, that's only psychology. It's if it's an AI with psychology. It takes unbiased workforce insights. Here's how it works. They have AI models trained by psychologists that extract and classify chat messages sent between employees. A demo page on the company's website shows them detecting the following exchange, which now, because Milo is sitting next to me, I would like to do in a dramatic reading with him.
Okay.
This is, again, how they imagine people talk. Hey, Martin, I'm so stressed because of the merger. They're giving me all this workload. This sucks.
I'm always saying it.
I get what you mean, but I just think about all the good things that come from this smiling glasses emoji.
That's very easy to say for you since you've been here since forever and everybody loves you.
Just give them some time. I love these new challenges now! ! Wow, people really talk like this.
I can't handle it anymore, to be honest.
And then there's like
Sad
cross-eyed,
face, yeah.
like gasping face. Let's talk to Susan. She might have a plan to take some of this pressure off you back.
I mean, that's the one realistic thing. I don't really care anymore, FYI. I'm looking at other jobs already, just in case. So number one, we're going to take that to the West End, I think.
Yeah, of course, yeah. How did they get this transcript of the Trashfuture group chat?
Yeah, so...
Yeah, we're merging with the Romaniacs.
Yeah, fine. Oh, it's called Oh God, What Now?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Well, it's going to be called Oh God, What Future in a minute.
Yeah, absolutely.
You and Ian Dunt fighting over the showrunner position.
I could take him.
I thought you were going to say, oh, fuck him. I was like, wow, you really escalated that.
No, I will not. So what they did with that transcript is they highlighted some of the phrases like, I'm so stressed, I can't handle this. I love these new challenges. Also, they highlighted.
Who doesn't?
They basically said, okay, well, we want to start modeling our AI on the 5 big personality traits. Openness, discipline, extroversion, cooperativity, neuroticism. I think those are still a bit... I'm very skeptical of ways to like...
I prefer love languages myself.
Yeah. Attachment styles. And there's obviously star sign as well, which some companies prefer.
I think these, or this, like a Myers-Briggs thing, it's like a lot of it is just sort of, a bit up in the air, right? But they said, no, we want to make our own version. We want to make a proprietary personality model that
awesome.
You, the CEO, should be able to measure your employees against. And they called this the semantic personality analysis theory.
Right.
Like this is something I also enjoy, right? Is we didn't lose in the changeover from like the Gilded Age to now, right? The great rationalization of the 20th century. We didn't actually lose that kind of rich weirdo who'd be like, I've come up with a new bisection of the human mind or whatever.
I guess I've come up with a new bisexual.
Finally, try one.
And this one can drive.
Right. It's we haven't lost that.
Yeah.
It's just that they've been filtered into business doublespeak.
Yeah.
So they created a new map of the mind, essentially.
Yeah, of course.
And so they said, we must handle models as dynamic belief systems, calling our theory semantic personality analysis. It states that we are the beliefs that we are constantly repeating and that we act upon ourselves, others, in the world according to that speech. Therefore, we do not try to enclose workers in a global category. So isn't that nice? They're not trying to enclose workers in one personality kind of personality test. They're allowing workers to be evaluated on any number of personality tests that they couldn't possibly understand.
Yeah, of course.
That's the other thing. If you know, right, that your company is rolling out Erudit, what do? You'll find out how to talk in messages in ways that Erudit wants to hear.
Yeah. You start sending messages like, love PowerPoint. PowerPoint tonight, Queen, eye emoji.
So we offer metrics on different aspects of worker hourly mental states, considering their historical behavior and cultural context.
My hourly mental states.
Yeah. Therefore, Erudit does not box employees into globally defined categories, rather offering different metrics on different aspects of hourly mental states. We design all sorts of scrapers to get text from books, poems, songs, dialogues from movies and series, social media and forums, and hired a team of psychologists to tag them based on their theory and the metrics that we knew were of interest to human resources managers. So I only have to ask, what books and movies did they use?
All the Harry Potter books.
Yeah. Like apparently Greg from Accounts is saying that he's husband is his husband to a murdered wife and father to a murdered son, and he will have his vengeance in this life or the next.
Yeah. He's feeling vengeful. I want to know what their like global HR categories are. You got hungry, horny, unionizing.
Yeah. So at the same time, we designed an algorithm based on AI to create word vectors that encode their meaning from co-occurrence in the same context. Meaning basically, the closer these words often occur together, the more associated they are with certain personality traits. But the issue, like, if you're just thinking in corporate doublespeak, then all that is legible to you is corporate doublespeak.
Yeah.
Right? And then everything is being evaluated from that kind of is being evaluated from the ideal of corporate doublespeak. It is... For all everyone worried about 1984 because, like, I don't know, there's a Stonewall flag or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of that stuff around, like, Newspeak or whatever, it's actually is happening.
Oh, yeah, big time.
It's happening here.
They're all emoji. It's all weird emojis, and not even the good ones.
Yeah. This is where that is happening.
Yeah, they're not even using the 100 emoji.
No one uses flames. No, they do use flames.
Do they use the little flamenco dancing woman?
No, they don't. That's gone now. Bygone era.
Yeah, it expresses too many joyful concepts.
Yeah.
Right, but the if you want to see a picture of the future, really, it's just understanding what the biases of the AI that is monitoring or governing you is.
Well, we're answering this question as to like what the future of office work is, because, and I've been thinking about this a little bit over the time we've been doing these episodes, because to me it feels like there's this contradiction, right? Like, if you're working in an office and if you're working in some sort of basically an email job, the likeliness is that you've been told in some capacity that your job is basically just about to be automated, right? Like effectively they are waiting for the AI to make you redundant, and it's more like it's more of a matter of time than anything else. It doesn't really matter about how good you are at your job or how like good you are at doing a spreadsheet or an email, because ultimately like the AI tools are, at least as the logic goes, it's going to be better than you. So in the meantime, like what's the point of you being in an office, right? And it feels like all these AI tools are really rooted in the sort of concept of measuring performance. But this isn't performance where it's just like, your standard KPI metrics or whatever, which again are bullshit, but for different reasons. I've seen it sort of now being seeped into language. And so it seemed like these type, like erudite seems to be like this good example of how you can once again add like a bullshit metric to employees that they're never going to like fully meet. But this time it's monitoring the way that they communicate. And in so doing, kind of creating, or at least like kind of promoting a type of corporate speak, which is, I think, as you mentioned, like is friendly to the AI tools that are eventually going to replace them, but also creates a different kind of office environment in which everyone sort of knows they're not really doing anything and they're waiting to be phased out, but there is still this need to convince people that they're being productive. And so you end up having these very weird conversations where you have like sentences such as, I love these new challenges, with an emoji with sunglasses, right?
Yeah, well, it's the concept, I think, the concept I've been thinking about a lot recently when it comes to AI and these kinds of tools is legibility. Because the whole thing about AI, right, is that there's many dimensions you can think about it, right? But the two dimensions I'm most interested in are modality and legibility. So modality is how is the software able to consume information, images, sound, text, blah blah blah, right? And then legibility is how does it index it? So does it make something legible for? So, for example, management might have access to every single Slack chat, but unless they're searching for a time and an exchange, there's too much information for them to see. Right? It may be there, but it's not really legible to them. It is not, and all of this information, such as like employee engagement or whether they're unhappy or whatever, that's all there, but it's not really legible to them. And at the same time, you think, okay, well, there have been revolutions in workplace legibility in the last like couple hundred years. And those are things like the assembly line. Those are things like Taylorism. Those are things like the creation of HR departments. There's the creation of things like of the open office. All of this allows whatever management cares about, it allows it to be more legible to them. And if you are legible to someone, then they have a lever of power over you, right? Because erudite says, oh, no, we're not spyware, because actually workers are less productive when they think they're being spied on. This is just so bosses can know where to put extra effort, wink, wink, right? They say, no. But the problem is, if you are legible to someone, right, if they can understand you, if they can understand what action you're going to take based on what, if they know what you're thinking, it's things that you may not have said, then that is a lever of power that they have. And so this is...
Don't be legible. Become ungovernable. Start behaving so erratically and unpredictably at work that they cannot discipline you.
Like a kind of behavioral dazzle camouflage.
Yeah. If they call you in for a meeting in your boss's office, go into the staff kitchen and take a shit on the floor. Start speaking in Arabic immediately.
Do the Jared Leto Joker thing. Just like give him a mystery box.
Yeah. I'm always fascinated as well by like whenever, and I think this is an echo of like the crypto and blockchain companies we were talking about kind of last season. Whenever a company claims to be AI, it doesn't really seem to be meaningfully doing anything that is per se AI. It just seems to be like a computer. Like when it's like, oh, well, it can read all of this text and then it can like look out for keywords and associate, or like key phrases and associate them with a relevant emotion that we've tagged or whatever. And it's like, yeah, but that's not really AI. Like a spreadsheet could do that. Like that's kind of
Well, I guess this is the argument that AI is just a sufficiently large and complicated enough spreadsheet with sufficient rules, right? But yeah, then then you get sort of into the weeds about, well, what is it, what is consciousness, etc.
They're sort of sprinkling this like branding magic on something you could do with a computer 10 years ago
because they want their funding.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, of course, because this isn't really ever made to be marketed to anyone, or it's not made. If it's made to be bought, sure, fine. But the job of every startup founder in the AI era, as it was in the crypto era, as it was in the sort of general social disruption era, whatever, it's the same job, which is just get that series A, B, C, and D.
Yeah. Get your investors to give you money.
Yeah, exactly.
A line of question marks, profit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not even question marks needed. It's just 1, 2. AI, when it's applied to production, isn't about automation, it's about de-skilling. And in this case, AI as it's applied to people management isn't about automation, the removal of bias, so much as it is about the denial of accountability. It's about being able to say, well, sorry, your engagement score has dropped from an 80 to a 76, and to keep working in this in this department, you need at least a 78. I didn't do it, sorry, but you're gone now.
I'm now fascinated by the idea of HR Skynet. Sarah Connor, you are not fitting in with the workplace ethos.
And so they had a blog post that they said, fuck off with your surveillance software, said a comment on our digital ad. It's the most hostile reaction to our people analytics solutions so far. I can guarantee it will not be the last if it ever gets deployed
CEO
anywhere.
was quoted as saying, ay caramba.
However, as workplaces move online, managers fear to drop a productivity, and a slew of solutions to monitor employee performance made its way to the market.
A slew.
Thankfully, more and more leaders believe that investing in the well-being of the workforce is also an investment in the well-being success of the entire organization. Still, the reality is that surveillance software exists and can be used against employees if top management allow it. This is our attempt at learning about and directly addressing the elephant in the room. So they're saying, yeah, of course it surveils you, but they say, with great power comes great responsibilities. And it applies to
that big elephant nose.
It applies to Spider-Man's superpowers as much as it does to AI and every new technology.
Oh.
AI can work wonders for humanity. Engineers have developed an AI to empower persons with hearing disabilities with an app that translates text to sign language. It's like, yeah, fine. It is a computer that can make its own inferences based on like multimodal communication. That's pretty impressive. But it doesn't change the fact, yes, AI has allowed a deaf person to hear, as this claims here. Great. Or has, let's say, helps deaf people sort of navigate daily life. But it doesn't. But that doesn't change the fact that what you were doing is spying on employees.
Yeah. Oh, look, it's also done this good thing. So therefore the thing I'm doing can't be evil.
It's like, look, this hammer built this house. It couldn't possibly be used as a weapon.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. And then they, of course, quote a bunch of employees who are like, I love being monitored. It's great.
Yeah, look, AI can help a deaf person to hear. This guy fought the Russians. Don't worry about when.
So, last thing. Anonymity is key and has been used since time immemorial to oppose power and even topple regimes. Say the HR spyware makers.
Wow, this is they're going broad here.
Could employees use anonymity to their advantage as well? Anonymous metrics and even conversation topics inform leaders while protecting the identity of workers. So, yeah, you could be like, but what if I get listened in on and I say something that the government could improve on? What if I get listened in on by like the NSA and the Patriot Act, and I say, you know what, they should fix the damn potholes. And then, what do you know? Over comes the municipal works.
The NSA is like, Mr. President, we've overheard a lot of disgruntled people about the potholes. We've been listening in on the phone calls of Sir Rod Stewart.
All right, anyway, I want to finish up with a quick reading. Alistair Heath, I think, might be Britain's most insane columnist.
Yeah, and it's a league table.
Mm-hmm.
He's gone very insane because I feel like there were some that were just like always there.
Yeah, but, of course, Brendan, who could forget?
Yeah, but because I had some interactions with him when I was a young budding journalist, and I may have interviewed at the newspaper he was editing at the time, and may have had an interaction with him, and he seemed normal. And if you like read the stuff that he wrote, like he's just kind of like a normal kind of. His politics have always sucked, obviously, but he's kind of, for the most part, he's just sort of a finance columnist talking about like how markets need to be more free and everything. Yeah. And then at some point, I think post-pandemic, he wrote the column which was really about how he had given up everything and how we need like Jesus back. And that's when you sort of realize that, oh, you've been on the computer, you've been looking at some posts, and now you're not. Now your brain's not going back to normal.
You'll need Jesus, says Alistair Heath.
Yeah, but what I was gonna say is I think that's how you sort of need to understand it. It was like at some point he's kind of understood that like all the politics that he stood for and was very influential in doing, like especially during the Cameron austerity years, has kind of now affected him, and he's freaking out about it.
Well, so let's see what he says. I didn't know this, but Blair and Brown still rule Britain. Rishi Sunak's only hope is to crush them.
A spectre haunts the UK.
Yeah. It's Tony Blair and Gordon Brown. It's like Tony Blair still does haunt Britain.
Oh yeah, especially West London. It feels as though they think that Gordon Brown and Tony Blair did a kind of like Putin Medvedev switcheroo with like the Conservative government, where like they're still there in the background. They're waiting to come back.
Well, I think the argument here, right, and it's one that we've seen increasingly as the Conservative Party has fewer, I'd say, things to do, and how how true conservatism we realize has never been tried, because every time a new person gets in promising to do true conservatism, they sort of run up against the fact that much of that is just marketing material, and what they're actually going to do is very conservative, very reactionary, and very painful, but like that it will never match the dreams of think tankers and columnists.
Yeah. It might just collapse the economy.
Yeah, well, that's because it wasn't tried or it was sabotaged.
Yeah, of course, by the woke banks.
So Alistair Heath writes, despite 13 years of Tory rule,
a hell of a start,
Britain remains trapped in a dysfunctional paradigm shaped by Tony Blair and Gordon Brown.
Actually, a beautiful second clause as well. Despite 13 years of Tory rule, Britain remains trapped in a dysfunctional paradigm. What an interesting framing.
Yeah. Blair and Brown transformed Britain far more comprehensively than anybody realized at the time, empowered by a nomenclatura of lawyers, bureaucrats, and cultural propagandists committed to entrenching the revolution, and succeeded in bamboozling Tory wets into believing that their brand of technocratic social democracy was the only morally acceptable way to govern.
A lot going on here.
We've had a lot of technocratic social democracy in the last 13 years.
Oh, yeah. The Tories are always making pragmatic decisions. That's what I would say about them. They're never doing anything crazy that makes no sense. The Tories are all about looking at the data and choosing the best course of action, and damn the electorate. That's them. Technocrats to the end.
So I find the real reason I want to read this article was the second paragraph, though, which is the fashionable attempts at rehabilitating Blair are absurd. Again, that's true. That is literally true.
I don't know how fashionable they are, but there certainly are attempts.
Yeah. I wasn't impressed by his London Fashion Week runway show, but that was just me.
The moribund NHS probably
just wearing a gigantic ID card.
I have for the next episode. They've released a policy paper on how they want Starmer to do the ID cards.
They're back on it. He just can't. It's the fucking white whale for Tony Blair. He will never get over ID cards.
We're going to talk about it in the next episode. So sign up for the TF Patreon if you want to hear us talk. If you want to hear us go through that. Well, if you want to hear me go through that policy paper and you want to hear the rest of them hoot at me while I do it. Yes, the moribund NHS, probably the worst health system in the Western world. Why is that?
Yeah.
Our inane anti-house building planning system dreamt up by old Labour. Woke Neo-Marcusean ideology was first promoted by Labour governments from the 1960s.
Hey, what the fuck does Neo-Marcusean mean?
Herbert Marcuse, one of the Frankfurt School.
Oh, okay.
What's Neo-Marcuse? That's what I'm confused about. What's that?
Well, I don't know what old was he talking specifically about
OG Marcusean?
Marcuse wrote about the I'd say flattening experience of living. Kind of like he would probably have a lot to say actually about people's awareness that they're being watched by AI shape the way they communicate to one another, right? He wrote about the flattening of life in an industrial society, right? How that becomes hopeless. I don't know how that relates to housing.
It's possible neither does Alistair.
There's no Neo-Marcusianism That's on the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy.
Yeah, there's not a bunch of guys with shaved heads who call themselves Neo-Marcusian.
Maybe he's
they
just
would,
maybe
they would
he's
especially object, I think.
Yeah.
maybe he's just trying to like carve a new sort of thing for himself, because everyone sort of got taken like neo-Marxists and stuff, right? And like they're starting to sort of take on Foucault and everything, but he's just been like, well, who hasn't been tried yet?
Yeah, and of course, old Marcusian's taken, because that's just guys who went to Marlborough.
Or he meant Marx and he wrote Marcuse instead. I don't know. Yeah. Doesn't make any sense, but okay, go for it.
Well, apparently, since the 1960s, when Herbert Marcuse was actually writing, and you wouldn't be a neo-Marcusian, labor governments were promoting. I don't know what exactly that would have been.
Yeah,
of course.
It seems very specific.
Herbert Marcuse was primarily a cultural critic.
Does he? I mean, the only,
I don't know what he would say about house building of the NHS.
The only other thing, which would have been more of a good bit, would be like if he had sort of going from like one-dimensional man to like one-dimensional person. That would have been a good pronouns bit to put in.
Alistair Heath, get us for Punch Up.
That's right.
Tory MPs may have been in office, but Labour ideas have been in power. The Labour ideas, of course, are weak economic growth dragged down by tax regulation, a destructive monetary policy, and insufficient investment. The slowdown began in 2005, but the Tories have pushed more of the same anti-free market policies. For example, devolution, the ULEZ, and handouts from England to the SNP, and 20-mile-per-hour speed limits in Wales, and the uselessness of the Met Police.
Okay, cool. So this is just like a mix of grievances that actually aren't really related to each other
20-mile-an-hour speed limits in Wales it's not just Tories doing a Labour policy. It is a Labour policy. They've got a Labour government. It's a devolved. It's a Welsh government policy.
I mean,
it's not a central government policy.
Say what you will about Marcuse, like he would have really hated traffic lights. Probably. I don't know. Don't cite me on that.
Well, because it's like devolution meant that now Wales can have its own speed limit as opposed to England setting Welsh speed limits, which would be much more sensible. Yeah, that's the argument there.
But also, it's just so funny to be like, the Tories are just doing the things Labour would have done, and then point to a thing that Labour have literally done.
It's devolution was the argument here.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. The Human Rights Act, the rise of lawfare, and the Quangoization of decision-making, which spawned monsters such as the Climate Change Committee. Again, he's pointing to things like Quangoization of decision-making. That's a deeply anti-democratic current that runs through British politics that kind of does come from Blair and Brown. But this problem is that these anti-democratic organizations, these Quangos and stuff, are being run not by his friends from Tufton Street. They're not being run by like columnist-brained people.
Oh yeah, people who hate their children.
Like he's really, what seems to be upsetting him is like, no, we want a flat tax and I should be able to drive my car through a living room.
Yeah, and there's not enough people with gout in charge of the company that runs the speed cameras or whatever.
Our bloated, mismanaged, wasteful state, the broken approach to immigration, the growing dependency on the government for job incomes and lifestyles, the top-down environmental dogmatism that threatens to ruin the lives of millions, our overextended university system, all these originated under New Labour and were built on by the clueless conservatives. Which again, that is also true, but he's got it the wrong way around.
It was New Labour building on the work of Thatcher, more so than the current Tory administration building on the work of New Labour.
It's almost as though these problems are long-standing, but then some other things that he talks about, right? Like, our broken approach to immigration, or wokeness in general, or the fact that we have too many universities now. That was just Britain responding to the demand of the global economy.
Yeah,
it's just what it needed at the time.
Well, and also, like, again, what is he talking about? Like, fucking like Labour. Like the Tories have massively restricted immigration compared to like what was under the Labour government. I mean, since Brexit has changed a bit because they've kind of had to overhaul the whole system. But like, we're not letting any fucking asylum seekers, are we? Which, like, I mean, New Labour, as bad as they were, probably would have let in a few more than currently. So I don't really understand what its point is. Like, everything he's pointing to are things which, like, they have persisted to some extent due to the fact that it's impossible to not do them, but the Tories have slashed at them as much as they possibly could to the point where the Jenga tower has basically fallen over.
It didn't create the utopia.
Oh, right. I see.
Yeah. They didn't just push the big real conservatism button that creates the utopia. And we all know what revolutionary utopian conservatism is like, right? It generates speakers for Canadian Parliament.
Well, yeah, of course.
Essentially.
So he's basically furious that they've done everything he wants, but it hasn't worked.
Well, he says, in rare cases where Cameron and Osborne sought to break with Labour, they picked the wrong battles. austerity turned out to be a reversible damp squib.
Of course it's reversible. Any government policy is fucking reversible, you lunatic, other than blow up the world. Like, what are you talking about?
Well, the state was salami sliced rather than re-engineered and privatized, and in some cases the wrong prospects were cut.
You can't privatize the entire state. It's a contradiction in terms. Like, what, you're just going to sell the country to Serco? Like, how would that even work, you fucking idiot? Like, what, like, the prime minister is now just the CEO of Serco? Like, every school teacher is like a guy with a baton wearing one of those white shirts with like a fucking embroidered monogram on it? Like, what would it mean to privatize the entire state?
Make the CEO of Serco king.
Yeah. Yeah. Prince Charles works for Serco now.
Yeah.
He has to like check in on Eridit every morning.
Yeah, he's got private healthcare now.
Yeah.
Benefits are all right.
Yeah.
He talks like that now.
Every school run by Serco. The Home Office run by Serco.
Well, it's so close to being that already.
Yeah.
It's what his problem is that the function of a state is hard to privatize, and he wishes that they just threaded the ideological needle to just do it. And they didn't just do it. And that means that the Tories are doomed unless they finally try real conservatism and just do it.
I feel like I'm just like losing my mind at the point where privatization of public services has so manifestly not worked. And has ended up...
Their argument is like it's not privatized in the right way.
Yeah, or enough.
Right.
Or enough.
Yeah.
I mean, like fundamentally, this also does this seem like someone who's kind of would have supported Liz Truss and
he did.
Is really sad. And like so many of these columnists are very much just like people who felt that Liz Truss was hard done by.
Yeah, well, he literally does say that in this article. That was
there you go.
That forces conspired. Neo-Marcusians probably conspired against Liz.
But then
Truss.
it's a contradiction as well because it's very much just the case of again, all this sort of seems to echo this kind of broader thing about the world doesn't work in the way that I want, and I'm really pissed about that. And that's it. That's kind of the depth of the analysis. And again, it goes back to this sort of sense of like at some point. He just felt completely defeated and realized that like whatever he was advocating for just doesn't work anymore, and he's kind of just gone off the edge.
I don't think he even feels defeated. I think he feels betrayed.
All that, yeah.
He's always backed the winning team, and yet they keep doing the same sort of let's say they do the slide to the right as opposed to the leap into paradise, which he seems to want. Saying Brexit was the greatest wasted opportunity of all. It was the ultimate thumbs down to the Blair Project, yet it was largely neutered by foot-dragging Tories and by Boris Johnson's unwillingness to drastically remake our economy, welfare state, and machinery of state.
It was neutered by the fact that it doesn't fucking work. It's a non-functioning ideology. Like it just cannot be done. That is what we discovered. It is impossible without like declaring war on Ireland to do the kind of Brexit that Tory backbenchers thought they were going to have. And that was knowable before we did it. Like it was just an observable fact, but they were all like, "Oh, well maybe if I have a go." No, it's very simple. There are like basic rules and like axioms to how all of these things operate, and like you like apples and oranges, and you can't like will them into being oranges just because like you want it to be.
Well, there's a glimmer of hope, which is that Rishi Sunak started off poorly, but appears to have had a change of heart, preventing Nicola Sturgeon's awful plan to allow gender self-recognition, reversing the assault on cars.
The assault on cars.
And then
he's turned his function on the XL. He's focused on the XL bully.
Watering down extreme net zero proposals before signing off on more North Sea oil. And that's the thing, right? Like these guys, the point of someone like Alistair Heath isn't to be right? The point of someone like Alistair Heath is to always make sure the government moves, is to give the right somewhere to go, to give conservatism something else that it needs to revolutionize, right? Yeah. To always be permanently dissatisfied, because the right wing utopia project, it's the point of it is that it's unreachable, so that more work always needs to be done, more things need to be rolled back.
There's always more racism you could be doing.
Yeah,
and it's very important to remember that. You don't want people sitting on their laurels thinking I've been quite racist already. No. There is always further you could push. What about the Portuguese? haven't thought about them lately. Could we drum up something about those?
Sunak may now go to war against HS2, the ultimate neo-Blairite folly. Neo-Blairite now.
This is so good that HS2 was nearly done, and they've just decided to cancel the last 5 miles of track that would make it work for no reason. Just pure spite and churlishness. It's very Pandora not letting hope out of the box, it's usually just we've spent the 200 billion or whatever. All we need to do is build the last link between fucking Watford or wherever the fuck in central London. They're no, we're gonna save £1 billion, less than 1% of the overall construction cost, and make it useless. Just waste all of the time, all of the money, all of the pointless arguments that were had about where the route of the thing should go, whatever. No, fuck it. Fuck you. You're not getting a fucking train. We're going to save £1 billion and we're going to give it to fucking Serco to knock down your fucking meringue school.
So he says, it was backed by arch-Blairite Andrew Adonis before being embraced by Cameron and Osborne.
If anyone is an arch-Blairite, it is Andrew Adonis.
Like arbitrary foreign aid targets, HS2 is a symbol of the ruling class's constructivist ideology, a totemic project that mixes pseudo-greenery,
they love going to Birmingham,
bureaucratic empowerment, and EU envy.
How is it like foreign aid? It is literally a domestic infrastructure project to benefit the people and economy of the United Kingdom. It's as opposite to foreign aid as you could possibly get in terms of what it's trying to achieve.
Well, thank you for asking.
Okay.
Well, it's woke.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's woke. It's to make everyone. It's a piece of social engineering.
Birmingham woke.
If the ticket inspector on the train asks you for your pronouns and you give them the wrong ones, then you actually end up having to pay your ticket price all over again.
Yeah, that's right. But it's
connecting the two Muslim no-go areas of London and Birmingham in the hopes of building a greater caliphate across the entirety of the home county.
You can't have that.
Yeah. So it's the argument basically is that projects like HS2, because they're designed on getting people to go to one place and then go to another one place, right? Rather than having a car where they can stop on the way and start from their houses and never have to interact with each other.
And trains don't stop anywhere, of course.
Is a form of social engineering.
Yeah,
okay.
because you might have to interact with someone, but in your car, you can stay stuck on the road, and the only way you can communicate with people is by honking your horn and shouting so that they can't hear you, but you can.
Everyone
hear
on
yourself.
the train should get a little horn.
So it's like how Thatcher said, right? Economics is the method, and the goal is to change the soul. HS2 is the method, and the goal was to change the soul.
Thatcher sure did talk like an anime villain a lot.
Yeah. So let's hope the Conservative Party decides that it will be a proper Conservative Party committed to free market-driven growth, technological solutions to environmental issues, low tax, cultural conservatism, family and individual reliance, controlled immigration, and the forging of a new, patriotic, anti-woke, multiracial civic identity.
How is this not controlled immigration? What are you imagining? Hermetically sealing the country? Literally just kicking everyone who already lives here out and no one can live in Britain?
Probably yes. Probably yes.
Just Serco. But again, the point is, right, it will never be enough.
Even the people who work for Serco to guard the border of Britain aren't allowed to live in Britain. They have to commute from France.
This does actually sort of say, I think you're right in the sense that I don't even think he's really mad about half of these things. I think it does sort of read to kind of be this broader question about where does the right go once it inevitably loses in electoral politics pretty soon, and that's kind of a much broader question.
The party right, not the right.
Well,
in as much as the Labour Party is now occupied the center-right space.
Yeah, but I don't know, because there's also just sort of when the right wing are in don't have kind of power. I think that's kind of one of the reasons why you're seeing Tory ministers going to the States, Braverman sort of being one this week, where it's very clearly okay, you're looking for a job at an American right wing think tank. The sort of attempts to import American culture wars into the UK, some of which have sort of been quite successful, others not so much. I think it kind of speaks to this broader question that a lot of these guys have, which is well, where does the party right actually go at this point, right? Because in 2010, when the Conservatives kind of got into coalition, but their sort of pitch was very much about fiscal prudence, and that was kind of in the lead up to, or this was in the midst of austerity, and the post 2008 recession, they were able to kind of push that fairly well. Now you're in a situation where I feel like it's kind of insane to kind of be an austerity. I mean, I say it's kind of insane to be an austerity party, but the current Labour Party is very much positioning itself as being that and loves to reinforce that point. But it does feel kind of insane to be like, okay, we're going to cut funding to even more so like public services to do that. So then where do they go, right? Like, because if your whole sort of like political project was predicated on building the system that when in practice kind of fucked everything up so much that you could no longer insulate yourself from those problems, all you really have left are like various culture wars, which don't really make sense to anyone except for people who are sort of already on board, which is why you then can get this mishmash of things, that range from like, wokeness, but also XL bullies, good and also bad,
limits,
woke trains, no traffic lights, but also there should be no but also like white people shouldn't have to like wait at the red until the green man shows up.
You know what it is? It's the abolish bedtime politics, but for conservatives.
It does sort of fundamentally feel as like a real, them whining that the world has not worked out in the way that they want to. And I think like during the austerity years where lots of people did have to face the kind of did have to face the uncomforts and did have to like not even uncomforts, they had to really sort of face the complete collapse of their living standards. And now we're sort of at a situation where like, because austerity affects everyone, this group of like very rich people who had been able to insulate themselves from these problems for so long are now like facing minor inconveniences in comparison to like people who have actually been on like the brunt end of austerity. And they're like throwing their toys out of the pram.
Maybe we need to use political judo. Maybe we need to use their momentum against each other and simply say, well, if they're so concerned with the aesthetics of all of these things, let's give it to them, right? Let's build a racist train. We're going to have racist HS2, right? The tracks are going to be in the shape of a swastika. Every seat is going to be made out of ham. But like, finally we'll get like, the right will get behind some high speed rail and we'll deal with the other stuff later.
I just sort of had like one last one, which is like, so he's like berating the idea of like a big his criticism is that the Tories didn't cut the state enough, and
they reduced it, but they didn't reimagine and privatize it so that like
they did some nice cold cuts, but they didn't like do the big puck of salami.
We're not quite living in Children of Men, and I for one find that to be unsatisfactory.
But even in his sort of fancy where you sort of like make Britain a giant zaibatsu or whatever, or like like the private if you're complaining that the infrastructure projects are too woke and they're kind of ruining the countryside, but like, what do you think the private companies are going to do? Like, they fucked up all the rivers, like all the rivers in the countryside that are a very fundamental part of living in the drawing that you exist in, where only white people are there and everyone drives at 70 miles an hour. And that's completely fine. They have like blue kind of rivers, and you don't have blue rivers here. They're all filled with shit, and that's not like the fault of immigrants or like woke EU. In fact, the woke EU bureaucrats would try to stop you from doing that, right? Like that's very much like what you wanted. You wanted your brown rivers of shit. And now in
modern day Enoch Bowell.
The modern day, I was trying to come up with a bit for that, and I could my brain wasn't fast enough. Yeah. But you got what you wanted, and you're very upset by it. But you don't really understand why, or you're refusing to understand why you're upset by it. And so this is sort of comes off as this like angry stream of consciousness that doesn't even sound convincing.
Well, you know what? Hey, maybe someone will finally try conservatism for Britain and prove you wrong, Hussein.
Well, somehow Liz Truss returned. I'm waiting for that.
Look, we can only pray, right? At least we'd get someone fun back,
Yeah.
Anyway.
Matt Hancock,
back.
Yeah.
He's like SAS mercenary.
Yeah, now that he's been trained.
Yeah, he's funny. He's going to get the Johnny Mercer vote. All right. We're going to talk about that on the bonus episode, of course. Thank you so much for listening. Happy birthday to Nate as well.
Oh, is it today? Oh,
it is.
So it is.
It is today. One more year until he reaches the problematic age gap, and we have to cut ties with him.
Yep. So happy birthday to Nate, and thank you very much for listening to the show. There's a Patreon. There's a second episode every week. You can get it for $5 a month. There is also a stream most Mondays and Thursdays. Additionally, our theme song is Here We Go by Ginseng. You can find it on Spotify. Listen to it early and often. Other than that, I think we'll see you on the bonus episode.
Oh, yeah. Also, I'm doing shows in Berlin and Hamburg on the 17th and 22nd of October, respectively. Tickets are on my website. Please get tickets to that. There's also a date on sale for Bristol on the 11th of October. So please get tickets to that as well. There's also going to be shows in Oxford and Birmingham yet to be on sale.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.